Just the other day I was talking about the timeline for the Midnight launch and how that's all going to work and the first week of Midnight and everything. And a lot of us, I think, we're still confused about what is going to be available just for that brief early launch period, right? We got about 3 or 4 days of early launch before the expansion actually goes live. And some people are still confused as to what is going to be available to do during that period. So I found this one from Dalaran. Everything you can and can't do during the Midnight early access period. Let's get into this one here from Dalaran Gaming.
Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dal, and the early access for Midnight is almost here. Actually, in just a handful of days at this point, which means this expansion is finally upon us. But even during pre-patch, it already felt like Midnight was here, with all the different class updates, Devour, Demon Hunter, all of the new housing updates, and add-on less version of World of Warcraft.
What's crazy, honestly, is that the War Within was a shorter expansion than a typical expansion. It was like a whole season shorter than the previous expansions we've had, and yet I feel like the War Within has been so damn long. Like, I'm so ready for Midnight. I'm ready to move on to the next one, even though this one's been a shorter expansion.
That a lot of players are still getting used to, but now we're going to have a lot more content, especially during early access. Everything from a brand new level cap of level 90, a brand new one-to-one parity for the upgrade system, the Voidstorm World PvP zone, as well as an opportunity for players to unlock the Haranir, a brand new allied race super early at the start of an expansion, which sounds like a lot all on its own. However, players also should know what content isn't going to be made available at the start of the expansion. Things like raids and seasonal content actually won't be part of the roster at the very beginning, since the first week of a brand new expansion usually is left for players just to level all their ults and their mains and make their way to max level. So I wanted to make sure I put this video out together to clear the air, to make sure that you are aware and are informed as to what content you can expect out of Midnight early on, as well as for the first 2 weeks of the expansion launching.
I don't know what he's going to say yet, but honestly, for me, early access is really just a time to casually go through the leveling process, enjoy it all, take it all in, soak in the new zones, the new stories, the new lore. That's what I think early access is really good for. I don't think early access is a time to grind your dick off to get geared out. I don't even think that's possible, for one. And two, just calm the fuck down, man. The season's not even going to launch for another month. Like, you could just take it easy for a little bit. You got plenty of time to be grindy all fucking expansion, okay? Right now, I think you should just chill out, relax, and really take it all in, because the more invested you become in the lore and the story and everything else that's going on in the game, the more fun the game is. That's the truth. Some people always come out and they go, I don't give a shit about the lore. Well, the truth is, I think you'll enjoy the game more if you actually listen to the lore a little bit and take it in, for sure. Take it easy, motherfuckers. Yeah, definitely.
With that being said, as always, if you guys want to get more regular guides and updates for the Midnight expansion, be sure to follow the channel and subscribe, because we'll be covering...
Wrong. Early access is about farming mats and selling them on the auction house, damn it. I swear to God, you degens, you always find a way.
This thing pretty regularly, but otherwise, let's dive right in. Early access launch will start with a brand new storyline and quest chain, which I remember doing on the beta, but not like I would be able to remember most of it. I tried to skip majority of it as I could just by experiencing beta, mostly to test out the in-game content, but there is stories to tell for all the new 4 zones, as well as an extra storyline just with Arator specifically. Between the 4 zones, you got yourself the Eversong Woods, Zulaman, which has just formed the raid instance into a zone of its own. It's pretty massive.
Amani trolls always have had really cool background stories and lore. I'm excited to go into these zones. Playable Amani trolls has to happen. If Blizzard ducks us over with another really cool race, we had ethereals, didn't get them. We had Tuskar even. I wouldn't chalk them up as a really cool race, but they're definitely a high in demand one. Didn't get them. We had ogres back in WoD. Didn't get them. Like, if Blizzard keeps dicking us over with these introductions of these, redone, badass-looking races, and they don't make them playable, I don't know what the fuck to say anymore. And don't tell me we got the Haranir, okay? I don't want to hear it. Give me these damn Amani trolls.
And you can also visit Haranir pretty early on, and they should...
Juan, thank you for the gifted sub. Fatsy. Thank you, congratulations on the gifted sub, man. And thank you so much. Death Knight of our Scourge. Thank you, appreciate that.
You have the zone of Voidstorm, which is like the endgame zone. You're meant to go there dead last after you finish all the other areas, because the end of that storyline actually deals with the storyline that progresses within some of the different raids and other content within the launch of Midnight. And while you're progressing some of the stories in all of the original zones, one of them will be extra specific and extra special, the Harandar, which is the zone where the Haranir live. On this channel, we covered the allied race of Haranir, which apparently going to be made available super early on into Midnight. Majority of the unlocks needed for them is to complete the main story questline of Harandar, which unfortunately I could never really do on the beta due to some bugs and issues. However, hopefully with the launch, that whole questline will be a little bit more smooth, and players should be able to get all the way through the end of that entire questline. And apparently after you just finish the main story of Midnight, specifically completing the zone of Harandar, then you should be able to unlock the allied race, which is like a combination of trolls and night elves together. They definitely have a lot of cool, unique customization options and very powerful racials, from passives, combat active racials, but also traversal racial. They're essentially going to travel the world through the roots of world trees, which gives them quite a lot of places to go to. So kind of like a mix between a druid and a mage with teleporting abilities to some degree.
Yes. Now, well, the Haranir, you guys are saying they won't be available at early access, but you can essentially do everything that would be required to unlock them in early access. So that way, when the expansion actually launches on the 2nd, you'll get Haranir day 1. Is that right? Because he confused me a little bit here. If he was saying that Haranir will be or not be, maybe I'm just not paying attention. I'm dead-brained. But yeah, the entire quest chain and main story will be available. So yeah, then you could just do everything required, and that way, when the expansion actually launches, you got Haranir the first day, if that's what you want.
And as you complete the entire map for all of the zones, you'll learn that every single one of these zones actually comes with its own set of zone activities. From Abundance, which is meant to be more of a Troll Zulaman activity, but it's actually available pretty much anywhere in the zone. A cave will be marked by a low of Abundance, and you run into the cave, and within 3 minutes, you gotta loot as many things there as possible. But this activity happens every 8 hours, but there will be one of those weekly activities that you'll want to dive into. Another will be the Legends of Haranir in Harandar, where during the event you'll be able to essentially select one of the various different scenarios to complete. There's 7 total stories for you to be able to experience, though you can only get rewards from one of them per week. For the Blood Elves, you have the Saltheril's Soiree in the Eversong Woods, where essentially you get to host parties for various sub-factions of the Silvermoon City, where you'll get access to a variety of different quests that you can do for those factions. But it's part of it is doing faction quests, but also managing rewards, and managing part is extra important. You see, all these factions are at odds, and completing activities for one faction actually can lose you standing with another faction. So you have to pick and choose very, very carefully who you're trying to get favor from and who you're willing to give up favor for in order to make sure you're working all of those factions little by little simultaneously.
Interesting. Have we had shit like that in a while? I don't know. That reminds me of like Elder and Scryer's, Scryer's rep. Where like you getting higher in one lessens the other. I don't remember the last time we've had that. Maybe we had it recently and I didn't even pay attention in The War Within. But that's an interesting one. So picking, I guess you got to make sure you pick the right one depending on whatever rewards you want.
Hopefully all maxed out for maximum number of rewards. Then the last zone of Voidstorm actually has 2 events, one PvE focused and another PvP focused. The PvE event is Stormarian Assault, which is essentially a tower defense style event that happens every 30 minutes and lasts for 15 minutes. So this is something that will be ongoing there pretty regularly, something you can just dive in and dive out anytime you want to. The PvP side of things of the Voidstorm is actually even more interesting, however. While PvE players will be doing tower defense, PvP players will actually notice that in that zone specifically, there's a whole subsection just for PvP called Slayer's Rise. And it even has its own like area that you can just queue in or I guess click on. And it has a bunch of events in there from variety of...
Yeah, this one, I don't think this is a queue thing. I think this is a just turn war mode on and go at it thing. And you'll essentially be capturing these different points. So this is a really cool thing. Open world PvP, they're trying to give it another go. I personally love open world PvP. My favorite kind of PvP. So going into this, I actually want to try this, see what it's like, see if the Alliance can dominate. You know, we'll see if I can do that for them. But this should be fun.
PvP World Quest, so it encourages players to...
Also, I'm really interested to see how the zone handles the fucking server load, because they're going to have, first of all, tower defense live events going on, plus world PvP happening in this this Rise area. So we'll see how all this Slayer's Rise, we'll see how this plays out. Well, if there's a lot of players in this zone all the time, one, that'll be really cool. It'll make the zone feel alive. But two, how the hell will the servers hold up?
engage
We'll
PvP
see.
and fight each other, but also events that are happening in the sub area all the time. A never ending world PvP area with a ton of different objectives, mini skirmishes, big battles for you to participate in, but also treasures for other players to fight each other over. So if you're somebody who's really into world PvP specifically, Blizzard created an actual dedicated zone of Sayers Rise, and hopefully they'll continue to work on the zone, improve it, and tune it if never necessary in order to make sure that there's ongoing PvP combat in the area that doesn't have maybe too much skewing between one faction or the other, where you just have one, Alliance of the Horde just dominating everybody else. It'd be awesome if they're able to do some faction balancing to make sure that the forces are always even within that zone.
Yeah, we'll see. They tried to do faction balancing, if you guys remember, back in Wintergrasp and shit, where the faction that had less people involved in the world event or the world PvP event, we got like a bit of a buff, right? And sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. Sometimes it created like a bit of a weird dynamic between any single Horde player and single Alliance player. But we'll see if I haven't seen anything about that in terms of how that's going to work to try to balance out the shit, because it kind of will be ridiculous if just one side is literally dominating the entirety of the expansion. So yeah, that'll make a little bit less participation. Question: if Canada invented hockey, why didn't they win? Do they not know how to play hockey? No, we're just we're America. That's what we do. We perfect things. U.S. just does that. We didn't invent the French fry, but we perfected it. We didn't invent the hot dog, but we perfected it. Same with the hamburger and everything else. It's just what we do. We just perfect things. Okay, so we got the perfect hockey team now.
Now, when you do get to max level content within Midnight, during early access, the amount of endgame stuff we can jump into will be quite limited. But you will be able to join in with Prey and Delves, which are fantastic for solo and open world players. The Delve system is going to continue to get additional improvements, building up from what they did in War Within, and then continue to further improve it within Midnight. While you won't be able to go into max tier rewards, you will be able to dive into high enough tier raids in order to be able to farm up some gear, level up the companion of Valera, but also start working towards some of the various cosmetic rewards you can unlock, but with more to come in the season.
Cool.
Then you also have Prey, which is a unique new world hunting system where instead of going after a specific world quest or in an instance, you're actually participating in content out in the open world. Picking a target that you're looking to hunt down, and are actually physically looking for them in the
I don't
open
believe this
world,
will be available.
trying to find clues where
I
they
think
may be.
he's going through all the systems and then talking about what's going to be available in the actual early access period.
Until you eventually discover their location.
Yeah, I don't think Prey
you
is
can
available.
even run into a target while out in the open world, while doing other quests or side quests or world quests, and they can just kind of sneak up on you out of nowhere, which adds a layer of surprise within your adventures out in the open world.
It
where
is.
eventually
He said
you
it
defeat
is.
them, which gives you
Am I just not paying attention? Is that what it is?
plenty of opportunity for some greater starter gear, but also plenty of cosmetic rewards, especially as the season finally launches. Outside of that, we also have 8 new dungeons that will become available over time from the very beginning of Midnight. 4 of them will be available while you're leveling, and then the other 4 will be unlocked once you hit max level, from Den of Nalarak, Magus' Terrace, Myzara's Caverns, Murder Row, Windspire, Void Scar Arena, the Blinding Veil, and Nexus Point, Zenus. All of those dungeons will be available at the beginning on only Heroic tier, so you'll be able to get some gear at the start of the season, unless they decide to change it so that Mythic unlocks week 1, which I highly doubt they'll be letting us get Champion Track gear day 1, but at the very bare minimum, you'll be able to get a bunch of Adventure Track items,
Heroic and Mythic Zero will open up together later on.
which will hopefully set up for some seasonal gear. But there will also be other difficulties like normal and follower mode, and then eventually they'll be adding seasonal Mythic Plus content as well, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. Another system that got a pretty major update within Midnight is going to be the new upgrade system, because this actually does not go live until Midnight finally launches. Right
Yeah, we
now,
talked
at
about
least
this the
as
other
I'm
day.
making of the city, in War Within rather, you're dealing with Valor Stones, crests, and a variety of other different currencies for crafting and things. So a lot of it is being simplified in Midnight. Normal Valor Stones, only crests. Maybe a little bit of gold, but it doesn't seem like it's too much of exuberant amount of gold, so I doubt it's going to be able to, make a hole in your wallet, but it's going to be a much more alt-friendly system. So as you upgrade the character, your main character's gear, you're also going to be able to get the benefits much earlier than usual. And it seems to have a much more of a simplified loop with dedicated currencies for very, very specific items. It takes the original idea of what the gear upgrade system was and War Within, for instance,
Right.
and just finds a way to simplify it and streamline it a little bit better, especially with some of the different prices and weekly caps that they're implementing in Midnight.
Right. Well, we talked about it yesterday. They just changed it again right before midnight launches. It's 100 on the weekly cap, and it's 20 crests per level plus a little bit of gold. No more Valor stones. So that's really. I think this upgrade system is going to be better in midnight. I do. I think it's better. It used to be 15 crests per upgrade. Now it's going to be 20. So they upped it a little bit, but it's going to be you know, you don't have to deal with the fucking chasing of Valor stones anymore because that Valor stone cap was annoying as hell. Because sometimes if you got a bunch of gear and you've been capped out on Valor Stones for a while, all of a sudden you need more Valor Stones because of that annoying cap that existed. So that shit's gone. Now you just got 100 weekly cap, and 100 will take you all the way from the 1 of 6 to the 6 of 6 on any single, you know, champions track or heroic track, whatever track you're on.
However, there are a couple of content that you probably just didn't hear much about from this video. Seasonal content that is not going to be made available immediately, but will be live like 2 weeks after the expansion officially properly launches. That's not 2 weeks after early access, but 2 weeks after the official launch window, which happens a little bit later down the line. Everything from seasonal Mythic Plus dungeon content, where we're going to have 4 of the Midnight dungeons, plus 4 older dungeons. Most of them have been reworked into a different variation for Mythic Plus content. Even taking some of the instances from Wrath of the Lich King, like Pit of Sauron, and adding it into the seasonal list, which is going to be, I think, super exciting for many players, especially if you played back in Wrath and you remember the original version. Delves also get their seasonal content. Prey continues to get additional seasonal content as well. And when it comes to raids, which is probably going to be one of the most exciting parts of Midnight, whether it is at the start of the season or later in future seasons, the fact that we're getting 3 raids off the get-go, plus world bosses as well, is going to be massive. Obviously, the world is going to have up to 4 world bosses, which
I think I'm going to like this tiered release of raids system. I think it's going to, you know, it's going to make the raids feel new for longer. It's going to feel like we're getting content for longer. And it also makes less of I don't know, like a chase for the grind, you know, where you're just kind of rerunning the same shit over and over because now it's time to begin the grind. That grind will begin later on in the expansion now because we're not going to have everything released right away.
Obviously, the world is going to have up to 4 world bosses, which I believe are going to rotate on a weekly basis, but they'll be very, very similar to some of the other world bosses in terms of reward value.
But doesn't that mean 3 AOTCs, Sam? No, they already talked about this. There's going to be 1 AOTC, and it's going to include all the raid bosses from all the raids from the first season. So AOTC is a seasonal reward. It's not a raid-based reward. So it'll be completing all the raids from Season 1 will give you AOTC. So you technically will not be able to get AOTC until the final raid has been released.
Champion track Warbound gear that we had within War Within. But when it comes to raids, we have, first of all, the Void Spire, which is going to be the first raid that will be unlocked, part of the storytelling elements of this expansion, which ends with the Crown of Cosmos as the encounter. Then later down the line, we'll be getting...
I'm not going to lie, he's confusing me a little bit with this video, because he's really getting into like all the shit that's going to be released at midnight, and not so much just the early access shit, which is why I'm getting confused. So fuck you guys in chat for saying I'm not paying attention. No, this video is a bit confusing. Doesn't mean I won't post it, because I got to leech off of something. What the fuck am I going to do for a living? Go to work? Get the fuck out of here.
And one boss raid called the Dream Rift, with this insane looking boss. It's just a literal chimera of all these different parts, all these different pieces combined together, which hopefully should be a fairly fun and an exciting encounter. It's been a while since we had a single boss raid. Then later down the line, as the story progresses, we'll get a 2 boss raid, March on Quell Danas, which I feel like if I show off some of the bosses here, it's going to start to get into the spoiler category. But either way, the fact that we're getting so many raids that are not going to be available immediately, they are going to be rolling out over time, should give players a lot to chew through as the season progresses. Well, with that being said, as always, I do want to thank all of you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did enjoy it or found it informative, go ahead and give this video a like, as I would very much appreciate it. Be sure to join this community if you want to keep up with all new updates regarding Midnight as an expansion, with all new content that's on the horizon. Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section down below, and as always, I'll see all of you guys in the next one.
Yeah, look, this video, okay, Dalaran usually drops, you know, good ones. This one was a bit confusing because he really got into, like, all the shit that's dropping for the entirety of the expansion rather than just focusing on early access. But what I would say, either I wasn't listening or I got a bit confused. It's just leveling, guys. You're just going to level in early access. Yes, if you want to herbalize and do all that other shit, gather a bunch of profession shit, you can do that too and you know, farm the, you know, play the auction house game. but really you're just going to have 3 days of leveling up, and then everything starts to unlock once the actual expansion goes live. We're going to get early access, so we're going to get delves, all that other shit happening, early dungeons and everything else, and then you'll get like Mythic Plus and everything else coming later down the line with the raids opening too. So early access, level up, enjoy the process, have a good time with it. Wrong, gathering. Yeah, no, you can gather. You can gather in early access, yes. No doubt. Sam, jokes aside, you see the new animation. Yes, we just reacted to. Is awesome. Nice video overall from Dalaran still, but not really focused on just early access. Nonetheless, Samiccus is going to post this shit. Fuck it. Thanks for watching.